Hello and welcome to Science Unscripted. It's Connor here.
And Gabe.
Going to start off with a couple of emails from our listeners around the world. Gabe, this one really took me on a roller coaster ride.
Okay.
Emotionally.
Sure. Whoa. Did I see this yet? Or?
I don't think so. Dear SU, Science Unscripted, I'm writing you from my sick bed because I've been fighting cancer and the doctor said I have only a few weeks left. I want to entrust $8.5 million to your care for charity purposes to help the less privileged, as my late husband's relatives want me dead so that they will claim all my late husband and I worked for.
How much?
$8.5 million. I will tell you more about myself and what you need to do with that money. Your feedback is welcome. Thank you. Mrs. Cecilia Drivermata. Cecilia, thank you for the spam. And for offering me $8.5 million. I am going to write her back.
She might listen.
I'm not going to divulge somebody else's email address on the air. I'll just say that it ends with, or it's 3 letters, and then at Diamond India, I think, .net.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to see where that takes me, because that's always an interesting thing to find out.
I got one here. Good day. This is about your homing pigeon conversation with a European homing pigeon scientist lady.
Scientist, you're an immunologist from the University of Bonn Hospital.
By the name of Clivia Lizowski, I believe?
Yeah, Clivia Lizowski.
My qualifications, this is the email author here. My qualifications, I am just a fat guy that couldn't sleep and turned on the radio at 4:50 a.m.
That is when we air across parts of North America.
Okay, and then he gets into his correction. He found something wrong with the interview or how she responded. Clivia responded, and he says, "An individual homing pigeon remembers only one home at a time. If you want a message to go to the other direction, you need another homing pigeon. During your conversation with the Euro lady you were interviewing, there was a language difficulty. While your question was about two-way communications, her answer was merely about one-way communications." As I remember it, though, Connor, you asked her, how do you train a pigeon to go one place and come right back?
Come back, yeah.
You referenced World War I and the use of homing pigeons, but that's not what you wanted to know.
As a messenger, as part of the study, what she explained was that you create a wonderful living environment for a pigeon at home, and you give it big, tasty rewards at that place. And then you take it further and further away from home until you have brought it to the point that you want it to remember to go to, effectively. Right. That it will fly there.
Further and further and further and further until, yeah.
And I'm not sure what that emailer means, because I think in that case you would be able to have messages go bi-directionally. You could have the pigeon fly to the next point and then return home, right? Return back, the way I understand it. Otherwise,
using just the one pigeon, not necessarily needing two. I just wanted to say if that was a misunderstanding or if that's how it came through, that's not what we were going after. And thank you very much to the guy listening to us at 4:50 a.m. I hope you can sleep better. I know that that feeling of not being able to sleep at 4:50 in the morning, it's a terrible place to be, and I hope you can, find a way to just zonk out somehow. Maybe go some physical activity. That helps me. Getting up early, getting some sunshine early, and getting that heart rate going for most of the day, and then maybe you can fall asleep better, man.
We're gonna start with an appliance that's dear to me and the future of it. This is the refrigerator.
Oh,
yeah. So I've been thinking about this because ours is about to go. It's just not cooling as well as it used to cool, and as a result, it's hot here, especially today. At the time, it's getting warmer and warmer, and the interior of our refrigerator is getting warmer and warmer, and hence.
And you want some really cool milk in the morning, right?
That's you. You're the milkman. You drink more milk than any other human being I know.
I like a really cold glass of milk. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, then you wouldn't like my refrigerator because I can't really keep that stuff that cold anymore. Okay. And I'm noticing it because things like cream cheese, you open it up, it's spoiling a little bit faster, and the difficulty is kind of even knowing if it's spoiling. And with this fridge in particular, sentimental value, because when my grandma passed away, there was a little money that I received, and we were young, and I think we had just had our first kid, and we had to graduate from, like a dorm fridge to a normal person fridge.
Yeah.
And that's what I use that money for. And this fridge has been with me, and it's on its last legs, and I have to think about what to do next. Well, the fridges of the future, and this connects to new research from UC Berkeley. It's in the journal Science Advances, scalable multiplexed machine learning gas sensor chips for food classification. These smart refrigerators of the future will know if your cream cheese is spoiling. They will have a sensor in that is a modified...
And an alarm will go off? Like...
throughout that. I hope not, but probably a digital display saying, hey, and at that point it might be something along the lines of, can't say what is spoiling, but there's a dairy product in your refrigerator that is spoiling right now or that is growing a certain kind of mold. Mm-hmm. This is Carla Bassel, a young electrical engineer at the UC Berkeley. And again, this is in the test phases. This is not a marketable product yet, where 16 different chips all read different molecules differently, and hence together create a pretty good picture of which molecule is suddenly hitting it. We've talked about this, VOCs, volatile organic compounds. There's a really fascinating study here in southern Germany where they sucked the air out of a cinema and they could tell which movie was played because people were stressed at different times. They can smell these things. It can smell it.
I was going to say there's a lot different. There's not just one kind of mold, so it's got to be looking for different kinds of molecular structures, and as soon as they hit, then that alarm goes off.
Exactly, and this has... They tested it on 16 different kinds of smells, fruits, nuts, spoiled dairy, and meat. Obviously, early phases, some of the caveats here is one, I think they tested it over the course of 2 days. That's my refrigerator now is going on 12 years or something. And so would it last that long? And then the engineers out there all chimed in. They're like, whoa. There's a big problem here, because once it has smelled a molecule, how does it get rid of that molecule? How does it clear its slate automatically? And that does not seem to be addressed in this study. There are other devices that can kind of burn that molecule off or heat it off, so that'll have to be addressed. But the future of refrigeration will likely include something like that.
Gotcha.
And maybe a little ping to your phone. Oops, your milk is spoiling, Gabe, or it's not cold enough for you to drink anymore.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about parrots last week, and just one more study on birds. I think you might laugh at this one, Connor, but I think it's kind of important. We'll see where this goes. And I saw I was looking at a parrot forum last week. And
as one is wont to do during the week?
I saw the content of this other study, and they were talking about parrots, and I went to this parrot forum, and this guy's got a parrot, and the parrot is humping his thumb. And the title of the post is, "Help! Is my parrot making love to my hand, or is he masturbating?" And then there were all these responses from all these parrot experts or people who have parrots saying that you should try and stop this. This is not right. Parrots shouldn't be masturbating. Birds don't masturbate.
Well, but mating, right? It's an attempt to mate. Anyone who has a dog
attempting to mate with the hand. This study out of the University of Lancashire in the United Kingdom is about avian masturbation. They looked at 120 different bird species from 12 different avian orders, and wanted to find out the prevalence and the evolutionary point of birds masturbating, the sexual auto-expression of birds doing it.
Well, in humans anyway, sorry to jump in, but lots of studies showing improvement in the short term to physiological health and also mental health as a result.
And also the reproductive ability. We'll get to that at the end. What they found, first of all, is that it is way more widespread than thought. So across those 120 different species, way more of them do it regularly than they thought. And what they found was that it is strongly influenced by evolutionary history. So within each of those species, either all of them did it or none of them did it. So they're like phylogenetic. There was a phylogenetic explanation for it. Based on the species and their DNA, they do it or they don't, which means there must be a point to it, and that's where they got to supposize at the end, talking about how it can possibly make it easier for you to mate by increasing the quality, the motility of the sperm, getting rid of the old stuff.
Yeah.
But what they also found,
prostate health
health, exactly. What they also found is males do it more than females, although females do it, males do it more. Juveniles and adults showed similar rates of masturbation, so it's not just one or the other doing it throughout. Doesn't matter your age. They do it, and species with multiple mating partners do it more. So the more you're at it, the more you're at it on your own, in your room all alone as well. And wild birds do it more than birds that are caged.
Okay, that's the opposite of what I would have thought.
Yep.
But just a reminder of how prevalent that activity is, and despite...
It's not a bad thing. The next time you're on a parrot forum, don't write in and say, he shouldn't be humping your thumb.
No, it's
totally normal.
It's a healthy activity across the animal kingdom, including human beings, and it has been shrouded in shame for centuries, and studies like these kind of help to undo that.
Yeah, and anything you guys got to say about what we said today, insights, anecdotes, let us know at su@dw.com. We appreciate that thoroughly.
We want to be able to take anyone who wants to go to the moon, anyone who wants to go to Mars, or anywhere in the solar system, and maybe beyond the solar system at some point. We want to be able to take you there. Not just a few astronauts. I mean you, literally you. And I'm confident at this point that we will do that for you.
I'm willing to bet that you guys probably heard the word trillionaire this week.
Elon Musk.
Trillionaire. That was the IPO. That was him addressing reporters and other people flanked by his team at SpaceX in Starbase, Texas, telling people almost thanking the world for giving him, I don't know how many dozens of billions of dollars. People are dumping a lot of money into his idea. There's a lot going on, whether it's building data centers in space, using rockets as taxis, getting people up into space.
Starlink, internet connectivity from space.
But also a big part about it, and that he was talking about, is interplanetary life. Human beings living in space.
Yeah, so that was the question we wanted to figure out. To what extent is that part of the sales pitch actually feasible?
Science Unscripted.
Hey, this is Scott Solomon. I am a teaching professor of biosciences at Rice University in Houston, Texas. And I'm also the author of a book called Becoming Martian: How Living in Space Will Change Our Bodies and Minds, which came out from MIT Press in February.
How do you view the excitement surrounding Elon Musk's announcement of the SpaceX IPO? How did it go down for you?
Well, look, it was a big moment in a lot of ways. I mean, not only was it the largest initial public offering in history, but it was also a big moment for space exploration. I mean, SpaceX now has a tremendous amount of capital, a lot of money behind their efforts. But to me, the thing that caught my attention most was a part of the paperwork that they disclosed along with, all of their financial information. This is a requirement for any company going public to disclose this information. What they highlighted in that document is that they have an incentive in place for their CEO, Elon Musk, in which if he is able to build a, quote, permanent civilization on Mars with up to 1 million or more inhabitants while he's CEO, that he will get this tremendous benefit, 1 billion shares of Class B stock. Their CEO is very much incentivized to do that within his lifetime. And that is something I find to be interesting because I don't think that's possible.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the idea of building a, quote, permanent civilization on Mars, right? I think what we're talking about here isn't just sending people to go and visit and come back. You're talking about people living there. That's what I interpret to mean a permanent civilization. And the really important thing to recognize is that if it is a permanent civilization, people have to be raising families there. We're talking about having children on Mars, because that's the only way that it becomes a permanent civilization, right? You have to be able to replace people as they die. And that is something that opens up a whole other category of things that we don't know about. And the idea that we could be able to do that within Musk's lifetime. I mean, he's 54 years old. So we're talking about, maybe 30 years if he lives the sort of average lifespan for a wealthy American, maybe 40 years if he's lucky. Is it possible to have answers to basic questions like, can human reproduction happen in the conditions of Mars? Could a child born on Mars grow up and be healthy? That requires, first of all, getting people there and doing some basic experiments. I would like to see first animal research before we put children in harm's way, right? I have some real ethical concerns about doing that with children before we have basic answers. But it takes time for those children to grow up and become adults. We wouldn't be able to know those answers within the next few decades, even if we started today.
Mars has roughly 1/3 the gravity that we have here on planet Earth. Would that be a fatal fact for, a fetus growing in the womb or a young child being born there? What would disrupt that child's ability to live potentially?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that could be affected by being in that 1/3 gravity environment. We have to understand everything from fertilization through embryo development, implantation, all of a fetal development up until birth itself, and then child development. We know a fair bit about what happens to a healthy adult's body in 0G. Now we're talking about not only partial gravity, 1/3 G. We don't know how that affects even a healthy adult. But we're talking now about looking at the very formation of the body, of the bones, of the muscles. And there's been almost no research on that, even in animal models. There's been some studies in fish and some amphibians like frogs, a few rodent studies, but not enough even in microgravity, even in 0G, for us to understand, is it possible for animals, and particularly mammals like us, to be able to reproduce in the conditions of space? And now we talk about moving into a partial gravity environment. It introduces yet another unknown. So every aspect of our development from egg to adult is under question. So the bottom line is it all could be affected, and we just don't know.
Musk said in that statement that he wanted the point of SpaceX is to take the fiction out of science fiction. And from what I'm hearing from you, Scott, is that maybe is it all just a bunch of hogwash? Is he selling a vision to the world and getting $75 billion or a lot of money for it that is not realistic, that is impossible? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Well, I don't know that it's impossible. The question is the timeline, right? So I am also captivated by the idea that we might be able to someday live in space. And I actually understand the rationale behind wanting to eventually live in space, because it really could be important for our long-term survival. As an evolutionary biologist myself, I understand that, the vast majority, like 99.9% of every species that's ever lived, eventually went extinct. If we want to avoid that fate for ourselves, one of the best ways we could do that could be to expand beyond Earth and to become multiplanetary. So I understand that motivation. But the question is, can we do it in the next few decades? So I think that, in a lot of ways, SpaceX has already done things that have made, science fiction into something that's no longer fictional. The rockets that they've developed are absolutely incredible. But I think we need to be very clear about none of this makes sense if the people that you're planning on sending there are not going to be able to survive and thrive. And one of the other risks, I think we have to be very clear about too, is that even if a person could be born on Mars and grow up and be healthy there, it's possible that they might not ever be able to come to Earth. Their bodies developing in the conditions of Mars with that 1/3 G might do just fine there. But if they come to Earth, they'll weigh 3 times as much as they did back there. And they might just not be able to handle that. So, are we ready to set people up for being trapped on Mars? I think this is an important question.
What about the role of a centrifuge, which is mentioned for all of our listeners out there who can't picture that? It's a spinning wheel that creates its own gravity, so to speak. Anyone who has gone to a carnival and been on what used to be called, for me, a gravitron has felt this, where you get pressed against a wall because it's spinning
float.
around. Right.
You float when you're in it.
Yeah. and that this could create gravity in a place that doesn't have it, thereby allowing somebody whose body is weakened by 0 Gs or 1/3 G or 1/6 G to strengthen and to make that trip back home, potentially to back to Earth.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And this is something that's been explored in science fiction. And one of the things that's great about science fiction is that, science fiction authors have often thought through different possibilities. And so much of what we have today that is reality came originally from science fiction and inspired the scientists and engineers that developed those technologies. So it's possible. I mean, I was thinking as you were talking about, how a centrifuge works, I was thinking about my washing machine, right? You put the wash in the machine and it spins to dry it. And when you pull the clothes out, they're kind of glued to the sides of the machine because of that centrifugal force. So yeah, that in theory could be a way that, say, a child born on Mars needs to spend their entire childhood or some amount of time every day in a device that is increasing the amount of gravity that they're experiencing. The question is that necessary? How much of that? Do you need full 1G Earth gravity? How often do you need to be experiencing it? All of those are basic questions that I think we need answers to before we can start actually having kids being born there. So these are not questions that we can't have answers to, but I think we need those answers before it makes sense to start loading those first rockets.
The first time that I came across Elon Musk talking about using SpaceX to bring human beings to Mars for the first time, I think the initial window, because there are windows where it makes the most sense for humans to travel from Earth to Mars, it was something like 2026, which is this year now, or 2028, which is very close to now, and we're going to miss those windows. What is the actual time frame? There's a lot of talk and a lot of hype. What do you think? When do you think we will have human beings on Mars?
Yeah, so you're pointing out something that's important, which is, unlike the moon, which, we can travel to the moon almost all the time. There's windows that are better than others, but it's relatively easy to come and go from the moon. Mars, because of the orbits of Earth and Mars, there's only a window about every 2 years. And then when that window opens, it takes, currently with our rockets that we have, it takes 6 to 9 months to go between those planets. So if you launch from Earth, it's going to be 6 to 9 months before you arrive at Mars. And by the time you get there, the planets have moved apart again in their orbits. So you can't just touch ground, turn around and come back. You have to wait for the planets to come back into alignment again. So that means that a round trip between Earth and Mars, the shortest you could do is about 2.5 years. I think, though, that we will have that soon. I mean, I do believe that it would be possible to send people on a round trip visit to Mars. I would say within the decade. I would not be surprised if we see the first human boots on the ground on Mars, within the next 10 years.
The point of this show here, Science Unscripted, is to give our listeners something to take away from it. And I'm 100% sure that they're going to hear talk of Elon Musk this week. The word trillionaire is probably going to get thrown around. But Scott, can you give the people listening to this show right now some informed insight? Let's say they're at a cocktail party and the word Elon Musk and his IPO gets thrown around. What should they say to inform a little bit or bring down the hysteria around that announcement a little bit with science?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, like I said, SpaceX has done some absolutely incredible things. They continue to do things that are really remarkable. They're moving the rocket technology forward so quickly, and I think it's an exciting time for human space exploration. They are helping NASA as well to build a base on the moon. There are other entities that want to build a base on the moon, and that is looking like it could happen within the next decade. So what an incredible time for space exploration. This longer goal, though, of going to Mars, not just to visit, but to live there, is something that, we're familiar with from science fiction. Musk has this idea that we can do that and that we can do that soon within his lifetime. What I think we all need to be very clear about is that we don't want to rush that. We want to make sure if we are sending people to Mars, we're doing it as safely as possible. And, adults can consent to the risks that are associated with a mission like that, but unborn children cannot. So before we start thinking about having families growing up on Mars, let's do some science. Let's make sure we know what the challenges for human reproduction would be in that environment. We can do that science. Let's get excited about that. Let's push for doing the science so we can understand what the challenges are, but let's not move forward recklessly and irresponsibly and put children at risk.
Would you go, Scott, personally, if you were given a ticket?
I would love to go to space. I would love to see Earth from space. I would be, very intrigued by the idea of going to the moon if it were something that was routine, doing, if we knew that it could be done safely. Mars is a tough one because of the time. I mean, yeah, I would love to go and visit Mars. I would love travel and adventure, and that would be the ultimate. But, I don't want to go there on a one-way trip, that's for sure. I want to come back to Earth, and I don't want to be on the first ship. So I only want to go once we know it's relatively safe.
And what do you say to the people out there who argue, well, why go to Mars when you can go to the Grand Canyon?
You should go to the Grand Canyon, but if you could also go to Mars, hey, man, I just love to see and experience everything. So, but here's the thing. There are things on Mars that could reveal such fundamental questions, right? Like, we want to know, is there currently life on Mars? Was there ever life on Mars? And knowing that will give us insights that are absolutely profound, right? I mean, if we discover that there was ever life on Mars, whether it's still alive or not, if we can find out if that life is related to Earth life, that will be the most, in my opinion, the most important scientific discovery in history, because either way, it's fascinating. Either we find that, life maybe came originally from Mars. Maybe that's where life began, and then it went from Mars to Earth. That's one theory, or vice versa. Maybe Martian life is actually derived from Earth life. But that helps us understand the very origin of life, one of the fundamental questions of science. But if it's not related to Earth life, if it was independently derived, like if life came into existence separately and independently on Earth and on Mars, that would make it much, much, much more likely that life is widespread in our galaxy and in the universe. Because if it came about twice in two planets that are right next to one another in the same solar system, that would seem to suggest that life can come into existence in many, many different places, and probably has.
That was Scott Solomon speaking to us from his house in Houston, Texas. And that the name of that book, the title of the book that he published back in February, Becoming Martian, What Living in Space is Going to Do to Our Bodies and Minds.
Yeah, he also is the host of his own podcast. It's called Wild World with Scott Solomon. If you're interested in taking a listen, he sits down with researchers who go all around the world, to the Galapagos, to jungles, rainforests, wherever, to do their field work, and talks to them. I think that's just a great concept. We've done that before. We've had researchers who've come back from Africa, and we talk to them, and I'm always fascinated by the idea of them being somewhere far away for so long, and how that feels. Yeah, and that's what he's going for specifically or exclusively with his podcast.
Yeah. The point of this talk, I mean, I didn't want to really give more attention to Elon Musk. He has enough of that already. It's the idea or the question of us living in space. Where do you guys stand on that? What does it even make you feel like? Because at this point, it's far, far away, as Scott said, but it is out there. It's coming. Whether it's going to be our generation or the next generation or the generation of that, it's out there. What do you guys feel about it? Would you want to live out there or go up there on a taxi? Or what do you guys think? Let us know.
su@dw.com.